You do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
What the is that, dude?
Well, g'day, folks. How are you? I hope you're doing all right. Tell me if the audio is loud, bad, good, or indifferent, if you would, please, because I've plugged in a new microphone. So levels are an interesting term, but we'll see how that all works out. Who was first in the room tonight? Macca. G'day, mate. Nice to have you in. Pete, my good friend Peter. Very nice to have you in too, mate. Aussie Sue, God love you. And I saw some news about Dale as well. Where did I star that one? Good news on Dale's pancreas. It's settled down with inflammation. Now they've done more scans and found gallstones. Poor bugger. So be working on those ones next. So prayers still for Dale, part of Aussie Sue's family, obviously her son, and I hope all works out, going really well. I saw this one. Hi, Norse. Stopped smoking 4 weeks ago. I've never felt so sick, and now my hip's killing me. I might start up again. Oh, you poor thing. All I can suggest is try the X39 patches. They're not anti-smoking patches, but they will help with the hip. Well, in most cases, I think they'll help with your hip and any of the other aches and pains. You can get them off that link there. But, yeah, go and give them a go, because if you are in a bit of pain, then I'm not completely sure your hip pain will be induced by the lack of nicotine. And I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a proponent for nicotine, not necessarily in smoke form. But it has been proven that nicotine does have a very protecting effect in our bloodstream when certain things are traveling through it. Just one to be aware of. Personal accountant, you'd like to know who our corrupt lawyers are. The list would be much shorter if you asked who our corrupt lawyers weren't, I think, is probably the best way to approach that. But I don't know if such a list has been compiled. Fingers crossed that such a list can be compiled. And I guess we'll see. Sorry, I've got to move a few things before I can play my next bit. Yeah, we'll see how it all goes. So good luck, Norse. I hope it. I hope the continued lack of smoking continues. If your lungs aren't coughing up all sorts of black stuff and your hip seems to be the sore thing, my guess is, well, maybe it is the coughing bringing up all the bad stuff. You've put something out to make your hip sore. At any rate, my advice would be, though I don't give medical advice, give the X39s a try. You'll be amazed at just how great they are. And tonight there is an X39 meeting happening at 8:15 tonight, which I've got to be part of, for people who are interested in building the brand. So if you are interested in making a few bucks out of this every month, and it is possible to do, LifeWave are changing their way of doing things somewhat to make it much easier for people to make $1 out of it. So if you are interested, you better hit me up very soon if you haven't got the link already. It's really only been sent to people who are very active in the system, but I have had a few requests for it. So email me and I'll send you the link after the show tonight and you'll be able to join in. Before we get into tonight's guest, who I'm excited to speak to, Craig Cole is about to hit the road and do a tour around coastal New South Wales areas anyway. We'll get on and have a chat with him. But I wanted to just play something that Ainsley Bullion have sent to me. Of course, the price of silver and gold at the moment is fluctuating, I guess is the best way to describe it. But gold certainly is staying at amazing highs in the Australian and global market. On the US market, it's pretty significant, and they are looking now and starting to talk about silver and its growth. So I thought we'd take this opportunity to show you something that Ainsley themselves have produced. They took it upon themselves to go to the Perth Mint and have a look at the pressing of some new 1 ounce coins. These would be the snake coins that have just been released and are now available from ainslieybullion.com.au. If you decide you might like 1, 2, or more of those coins and you go to ainslieybullion.com.au, don't forget to put my name or the Voice of Freedom in the notes section of your order. And you only have to do it once. Then the Voice of Freedom tag, if you like, is applied to your name in their system, and you will get a discount every time you buy asking for it. You'll get that discount. But I thought you might like to see the process. So Director Paul Engerman, who's a friend of the show, obviously you'll know him from here, and now CEO Michael Engerman went over and checked out the Perth Mint. And I thought you just might like to see what goes into putting one of these coins together. So let's have a bit.
So what have we got here, Robbie? We've got
So this is the 1 ounce. I think it's 1 ounce snake.
1 ounce silver coin snake. Soon to be released.
Soon to be released.
In fact.
Yeah, beautiful product. And the snake, I think its scales really glisten and it just stands out off the coin.
It does.
It really looks alive.
Every year we see the Lunar series come out. Everyone comments on the quality of the artwork, quality of the coin. So, and this one speaks very highly of that too.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so even that one or the teal-coloured one is always really pretty, but even just plain ones.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic, I think.
Yeah, there's a little wonder why a lot of people collect them every year, right?
Yeah, I think they're terrific. So they just do a fantastic job upstairs, the designers. They're
and the designers upstairs, Robbie, been doing it for a long time, or we got new people designing?
Yeah, I think you've got a mix of both. I think you know got some new people bringing in sort of fresh ideas and talent, and you've got people who've been there a long time that just really understand coin designs of the world. So it's a nice mix of people that just keep coming up with really creative concepts and beautiful designs.
Well, certainly is a beautiful design. I'll give them that. Quite spectacular. And available through ainslieybullion.com.au right now if you like. They obviously were over there a few weeks ago to film that, and they've only just been allowed to release it on their own website. So all of this stuff has to get approved by so many people. But they will be putting up a few more interesting bits and pieces that they filmed. And if you have an interest in seeing how the coins are minted, gold and silver, etc., a behind-the-scenes look in the Perth Mint will be available on the ainslieybullion.com.au website. And I might even bring a little bit of it on here to play for you at one time or another. All right, let's get on to the important business of tonight. Craig Cole is a man many people in this side of the game have known for, well, I've certainly known him for the last 4 years. He was associated with the Ricardo's mob there for a while, has gone out on his own and has taken up the cudgel, particularly when it comes to protecting our children. I'd like to welcome him onto the Voice of Freedom once again. Craig Cole, good evening, my friend. How are you?
Good evening, Carl. I'm absolutely fantastic, mate. Kicking goals all over the place. And how are you?
Mate, I've had a trying few days, if I'm honest, in the personal world, but we'll push through. There's no point complaining. Everybody has things to bear, crosses to bear, and you know,
sorry, mate.
It's snakes and ladders, mate. Swings and roundabouts. We all have good days. We all have bad days. Sometimes we have weeks that we think we're on top of the world and kicking goals, and next week we find out somebody shoved a goalpost up our clacker. But that's the nature of the game. So you wouldn't be on the field if you didn't like playing it. So that's pretty much how I view life, the universe, and everything at the moment. But you, on the other hand, have taken a much more serious view, and have decided to really reach out and alert people to the serious dangers that are posed to our children by those that should be protecting us. And you're about to hit the road. Do you want to tell us? I know you do a lot of work around Victoria. I think the last time you and I bumped into each other was in Bacchus Marsh after a day you'd been on the streets there. You're going a bit further afield this time. You're heading off to New South Wales.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. I missed most of what you said because it broke up. I'm not sure if the connection's at my end or your end, but I got the end gist of it, mate. So but that's life, and I had a set of challenges this afternoon where was alerted that one of the venues, because one of the over-offended snowflakes sent in a email complaint to the Newcastle Sports Club where the Time to Rise seminar was meant to be. So the venue cancelled because they didn't want someone in their club as unhinged as what I was the manager's words. So but it's great. So it gives we've already locked in another venue. So both nights in Newcastle will be at the Croatian Wickham Sports Club, and God bless them for putting me in on the Tuesday evening. They're actually just opening up the venue on a Tuesday evening specifically for that. So, it's an extra win for them. So we're grateful for that. They can get that extra night, and we can still maintain the continuity of the tour up in New South Wales, mate. Yeah. So, man, it's going to happen. This is what, but the amusing thing was with the email, Carl, that they didn't put their name to it. Surprise.
That'd be right. And yet the club caved to it because some anonymous person sent us something. I mean, that club should be named, shamed, and outed. And in Newcastle particularly, it's a very strong area for people in not just the freedom movement, people who are concerned for what's happening to our children. And I think the club's made a tragic error in thinking that you're unhinged with your message. That's certainly not the case.
The manager did say, I've looked at your Facebook page, and you're a bit controversial and blah blah. So I went on to explain to him, it's the times we're in, and we're not going to get where we need to get to by pushing a footing around the issues. So, but anyway, he's blissfully asleep, and they stay that way. But that's the Newcastle Sports Club decided to do that. So if you're in Newcastle, probably go somewhere else for a beer. But the Croatian Wickham Sports Club have taken it up. But on a more positive note, well, it is a positive note. We got the extra venue. Yeah, look, it's sort of come about because I've got a lot of messages from people in New South Wales saying, can you come up here and do some presentations? And you get half a dozen messages and a dozen messages. So you think, well, there's no one really up in New South Wales on a public forum apart from Celine from the Machine, Against the Machine. Sorry, she does a great job. Celine, I don't know if you've seen her, and a couple of others. But the people up there do the people up in New South Wales obviously are staff for information. So I thought, well, I'll go up there and with the contacts, and thank you so much to Jackie George and Mandy from my place up in Newcastle, and Franco and Steve on the Central Coast, and George in in Sydney, that were helping me get the venues. So, God bless them. But while I was up there, I thought, well, I might as well stay up there for a week and run back-to-back nights, the Leave Our Kids Alone community information sessions, and I will put some content that's relevant to New South Wales as well too. But I thought, well, Carl, the Time to Rise seminars under the Team Warrior Spirit label, that it's basically 30 years of my knowledge. I did my first personal development course way back in 1992, and still friends and still in contact with the gentleman that ran that evening, Barry Edwards. Contact Barry from time to time, so as a sort of a shootout mentor, so to speak, still. So it's 30 years of my life and experience and knowledge and passion that I want to deliver to people, and in the form of the Time to Rise. And it is time to rise for all of us, and we have been rising, but I think it's taken its toll on a lot of people over the last 4.5 years, and a lot of people are bruised and a bit disorientated in terms of when's it going to, because we all want to see the end result, and what people don't fail to understand is, well, the beauty and the magic is in the ascent, and how much have we all grown in the last 4 years. And I know a lot of people are suffering a little bit, so if my seminars can help them, guide them, and push them onto that next level of their evolution, which they're designed to do, well, then that's the goal and that's the intention for those.
You've got a huge reception in different parts of Victoria that you've travelled to, and obviously there is a fairly large online support mechanism behind what you're doing. Nobody wants to see our kids hurt. What can people expect in your live presentations? Are you going to shock the shit out of them? Are you going to show them horrible pictures? Or is this more something that is a truth telling rather than a truth showing?
Yeah, great question, Carl. Thanks for that. It's confronting. There's no graphic pictures. I go through where Safe Schools originated from and the founder of Safe Schools, and Respectful Relationships is a spin-off of Safe Schools, and a lot of the content that was in the original Safe Schools is in the Respectful Relationships. So it's giving people the context of where all this come from, obviously giving them the situation, what it is now, and obviously most importantly, what they can do about it, and their rights and lawful rights as parents. And I'll be letting them know about a letter template that as well too, to send off to schools, and it's relevant for Australia-wide, not just Victoria, whereby and I'll just call it up, Carl, because I will be announcing it. Well, it was announced Sunday evening, but so I can further speak about it tonight. That was an initiative with myself and Penny Johnson. Excuse me, she's done some great work. And it's just a letter, a statement of claim and no consent and notice of liability, and we're serving it upon the principals, just to let the principals know that that parent's child or guardian or legal guardian or carer is in breach, that they do not consent for their child to be part of any subject that teaches gender theories or sex education, that includes content that does not respect their age, religion, beliefs and moral convictions, which are being taught and sneakily being taught all around the country. And it's just reminding the school principals that if they continue to teach this content against both child's and parents' wishes, they are in breach of the Article 18, Section 4 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which is scheduled and codified Schedule 2 in the Australian Human Rights Commission Act 1986, and the same for Principle 2 of the Delegation of the Rights of the Child, which is Schedule 3 in the Australian Human Rights Commission Act. So what that basically means, Carl, is if they are in breach of those two sections of the ICCPR, as it is scheduled and codified into the Human Rights Commission Act 1986, that means teachers will then be in breach of federal legislation and subject to prosecution. And furthermore, the letter reminds teachers and the principals that any child cannot be discriminated against, bullied and or vilified, and against exercising their basic lawful and basic human rights. And that if is such discrimination or vilified or bullied in any way, then the teachers or parties concerned are in breach of legislation specific to each state as well as federal legislation. So that's the sort of information that we'll be bringing people. And it is confronting. I will be speaking about Gary Dowsett, who was the co-founder of ARCSIS. ARCSIS is the Australian Research Centre for Sex, Health and Society. That's where 100% of the content was formulated from the Safe Schools. So I'll be letting people know about the links to pedophilia that Gary Dowsett has. Also, another person there from La Trobe University, Steve Angelides, and the content that he wrote in journals. I think I've covered it with you before. Obviously, letting people know what the situation is. The situation, I'll get some examples from New South Wales, but it's Australia-wide. And these aren't isolated incidents, Carl. They're really not isolated incidents. So,
yeah,
you know, you get a lot of... And they're being really sneaky about it. Now, I know Victoria is the worst case scenario in any situation in this country. Okay, we're the most locked down city in the world, let alone the country, over COVID. And let's start calling it for what it is, COVID, because it was one giant con. So I just lost my train of thought there for a sec. Teachers, here's the thing, and let's not forget, Why am I qualified to speak about this? Well, I spent 18 years, the last 18 years of my life since 2006, working with youth in the community, both primary school and high school, in the school settings, running life skills programs, facilitating them, and doing a lot of one-on-one mentoring for children who have, I think I might be, can you still got me, mate? Yep, cool. For children who have drug and sorry, you got me, yeah. For children who have, suicidal thoughts, suicidal children, children that have parents with drug and alcohol issues, children that have been subjected to sexual violence and sexual assaults, refugee children, autistic children, the full gamut of kids. I've worked with them. I spent 15 years in the education system, 10 of those years on an education department contract. So I know the system well, and I know how badly broken it is, and I know how saturated it is with woke activist teachers. And if you don't believe me, go to all of this information I'm giving you tonight, you can check out on the Leave Our Kids Alone website. That's Leave Our Kids Alone, kidswithaz.org. And you'll see, sorry, what was I, just lost my train of thought again. There's so much goes through my mind. Teachers, sorry?
Just give us the website number again. It dropped out here.
Yes, sorry, Carl. Leave Our Kids Alone, kidswithaz.org. Leaveourkidsalone.org. Now, a lot of teachers, and I've been privy to a lot of conversations with a lot of, as you know, a lot of meetings with welfare work coordinators, welfare workers, teachers, vice principals, the full gamut. Been worked in over 200 schools. Now, people might say, oh, that's a bit much, Craig. No, well, I've worked for 15 years in the education system, ran about programs in about 10 to 15 schools a year. So you do the math on that over 15 years. So well and truly over 200 schools, and sat in school staff rooms in recent lunchtime. And now this is not all teachers, and I get a lot of teachers get antsy about this. It's the same ego that the nurses were on in the hospitals when they were injecting people with the poison. Well, I'm a nurse and I would know. No, and say what you get is, oh, I'm a teacher and they don't teach that at my school. Well, I'm really sorry, with all love and all due respect, you are not in every single classroom. So it's just beggars belief these people think because they work in an organisation or a place, they know everything that goes on for every minute of the day. That's your ego talking. I'm sorry, but it is. Now, a lot of these activist teachers...
Keep going, sorry.
No, sorry, mate. It's just you're just breaking up. I'm not sure. It's probably got to do with the connection at mine as well too, because it's not the best, the reception where I am. So there are a lot of activist teachers in the system, and they are hell-bent on indoctrinating your child. Now, what's my data on that? Well, the Institute of Public Affairs here in Victoria did a report on activism in schools. You can find that on the Leave Our Kids Alone website as well too. That was a 2021 report, where it clearly shows that the curriculum is heavily weighed to left-leaning policies and ideologies, and that what is taught. Example, gender theory, radicalised gender theory. And why do I call it a radicalised gender theory? Well, for starters, the education department here in Victoria states it on their site. Okay, so, and I will get to that in a moment, Carl, because this is clear evidence. Education department lying on their own site. Okay, once again, that information is on Leave Our Kids Alone site. Teachers, like I said, God bless. Now, at your start to the day briefings that you have every day in your school, the principal or the vice principal that normally runs the meeting should inform you that if you have a third party coming into the school. Okay, now, if they aren't informing you of that, then the principal or the vice principal is being negligent in their role. Secondly, you as a teacher should ask, oh, what's that third party and what are they teaching? The principal should have told you that. If it's about diversity and inclusion, I'm really sorry. I know you don't want to believe it, but gender theory is being taught at your school by these third parties. Now, if you don't have third parties come in, or taking a step back, ask to see the content. But here's what they sneakily do. these third parties, as evidenced in Renmark High School, when Headspace went in and talked about bestiality, incest under the banner of the LGBTQ, and they were explaining what each letter of that acronym meant, and they got to the plus, and they said that bestiality and incest were covered under the plus, and they described both in detail. Now, that was in Renmark High School. Once again, that information is on the site. That was in Renmark High School, and it was not an isolated incident. Once again, none of these incidents are isolated. They're across the board. Now, in rural areas, it doesn't happen as much. I understand that. And if you've got a very strong conservative principle with strong convictions, this stuff won't be being taught. But it's only a matter of time, because I know it's in your funding agreements under the Environmental Social Governance Rule that is driven by the World Economic Forum, that in a lot of the funding agreements, or all funding agreements, you'll find that gender ideology, and they've got to have a certain amount of pride days and this and etc., all under this radicalised gender theory. So it may escape your school for the moment, but it's only a matter of time before it gets there. And
from my recollection, Safe Schools was introduced by the red-headed clown Julia Gillard into an LBGTQ ABC FBI infested education department in Victoria, and from there has been honed and now rolled out not only across Australia, but when the red-headed clown was thrown out of Australia and she went and collected her 380 million of our dollars paid for job within the Clinton Foundation and the UN, she became the head of a panel of education for women around the world, sponsored by the UN, rolling out this exact program into schools across Africa, Indonesia, all the third world sort of countries.
While you're on that point, Carl, I'll just make one point on that point, and then remind me to come back to the education department. So, and I did speak about this the other day, and I'll just call this up, just bear with me. This is a document called, and it's from the World Health Organization, called Standards for Sexuality Education in Europe. Now, it's not just in Europe. This is what they teach in schools. Documents like this just give the woke activist teachers validation to keep teaching and indoctrinating our young kids. And when you've got the document, if you go down to ages 0 to 4, this is 0 to 4, Carl, okay? Enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, early childhood masturbation. Early childhood masturbation for 0 to 4. Then if you go from 4 to 6, once again, it covers early childhood masturbation. And they think ages 4 to 6, kids in Europe should be talk up sexual matters, communication skills. There you go. That's just a couple of examples that I can pull out. And I'll be speaking about those sorts of things.
That's being raised because the pedophile agenda is also on the cards to try and normalize pedophilia. They call it child love, and they will argue that a child of 5 is capable of making the decision to have a sexual relationship with an adult.
Yeah. Now, if you're indoctrinating them with this sexual content from an early age, they think it's normal, and that's what's happening in the schools. And I could go on and on and on. So, I urge people to invest some time. Yeah, sure, you might have to put off your bowling night or not go to your tennis game or whatever to come along to these information nights, but it's taking some investment of time off something else to invest in protecting your children. And people might say, oh, well, I don't have kids. Well, you've got grandkids, you've got nieces, nephews, you've got your friends' kids, and also may I remind you that a lot of millions and millions of dollars of taxpayers' money goes in the education system. So even though you might not have kids at school, your taxes, a good percentage of your taxes is going to fund other children being sexually indoctrinated and groomed. So, everyone's affected by this, every single one. And even if you're not your kids, I don't have any kids, Carl. It's not about if you've got kids or not. If we cannot protect our children on this issue or any issue, but especially this issue, because parents hand over their children in good faith that the school is going to do the right thing by them, not grab them, take advantage, and for these the woke cult, let's call it for what it is. It's a woke cult, because unless you unless you bend the knee and use their pronouns and buy into their illusion, you're a bigot and a racist and a homophobe. We've had enough. And I'll just repeat the message. One of the messages I've been giving from day one is, if you're an adult, you are entitled to make whatever lifestyle choices you wish to make. Absolutely you can. What you're not entitled to do is then indoctrinate and bully and harass other people's children into accepting your ideologies. And that is exactly what's happening, Carl. And for a lot of teachers to say, well, that doesn't happen at my school, with all due respect, I'm sorry, but that's not good enough, and it will be coming. And if you want to come along to one of the nights, please, by all means, and challenge me on it. No problem. No problem. Yep. I've got all the data to back me up. No worries at all.
Fern wants to know what the name of the program was that was introduced to schools. It was called the Safe Schools Program. And Julia Gillard led it into Victoria, where she basically controlled the education union. That was where her power base, or part of her power base, swelled from. And so all the blue-haired, nose-pierced bloody freaks that live in the administration bureaucrat area of the education department of Victoria jumped at the opportunity to sexualize your children. It's the easiest way of explaining it, I think, Fern.
Yeah, they did. Sorry, Carl, you just broke up there, mate.
So, Craig, your message is very important. How is it being received when you're talking to parents? Are they now being active? Are they going back to their schools? Because I know a lot of parents have a tendency to, maybe not intentionally, but it really is the effect of using schools as a babysitter for 8 or 9 hours a day. They drop them off, they get them home, they make sure that they do whatever homework. Do they check the homework? Do they check the curriculums? Are they going back on parent-teacher night and pegging some of these blue-haired, nose-pierced bastards to the wall about what they're teaching their children?
No, they're not. The teachers are protected, and it's a great point you raised, Carl. And, you know, out of every bit of adversity always becomes opportunity is always created. And it's giving a lot of parents a lot of opportunity to stand up and speak up, but not enough. Like the amount that come to the presentations, and there's two reasons why, is because they'll have a conversation with their child, and about the opportunity, I'll just backtrack a little bit. The opportunity to start having conversations with your children. Now, I know it's hard to get more than 3 words out of a teenager after they've come home from school, but you're the adult, you're the parent, you lead, okay? And if you're sitting your child down and saying to them, you're speaking to them from love and concern because you're concerned and it's your job to protect them under any circumstances, maybe a good lead in, but you've got to start asking your kids what they're actually learning at school. And a good way to do that is ask them, did they teach you anything today that you felt uncomfortable with or weirded you out? You've got to speak in their language, believe me, okay? So that'll open it up to having a conversation with them, but you've got to start. And if you're not, a lot of parents have got great relationships with their children, but don't just get caught in that ego trap of, oh, my relationship with my child's good. Yeah, don't assume everything, okay? No doubt it is, and that's fantastic that it is, but you can't assume. You've got to have the conversations, because the language that they use, okay, I'll give you an example, is one of the ladies come to the last presentation. She said to me, Craig, she worked at one of the primary schools, Montmorency South Primary School, where they've got a queer club for grades 3 to 4. I kid you not. She was in the room next to where gender theory was being taught, and to grade 5 children, and the teacher was clearly heard to say, now, your parents might not agree with this or be confused by this, okay, but they're old-fashioned and it's your job to go home and educate them. That's the message was. That is just blatant brown shirts indoctrinating. It is just propaganda, and this is 100%. The strategy and the tactics that these woke, progressive cult teachers teach. Might sound harsh, Craig. Yeah, it does. And I wish I wasn't correct, Carl. I really wish I wasn't. Because
it's the saddest thing.
While you're ignoring that and while you're dismissing it because you don't want it to be true, every extra day you deny it and dismiss it is another day that you are playing Russian roulette with your child, because this is how easy it is. And please hear me out on this. Kids like to pretend, Carl, as you know. I remember when I was a kid, I pretended to be 1,000 things as you did, and everyone watching did. Kids love to pretend. And there are some boys, the girls are considered they like doing, what the opposite sex activities are, whatever they are, what that may be deemed.
When I was a kid, I used to play with my sister's Barbies, but I was driving my Tonka truck over it.
There you go. Now,
dressing it up.
I'll tell you what the conversation would be now, Carl. Yeah. Sorry, mate. I don't know when to speak or not, because at my end you're breaking up, mate. So I'm not too sure when to cut in. So sorry. If I cut you off, that's the reason why. Now, that's a great point, Carl, because if you went to school, if you were a young kid, you've just spent the night before playing with your sister's Barbies, and you go into the teacher and one of these woke teachers and say, oh, Miss Smith, I played with my sister's Barbie dolls. Oh, do you like playing with dolls? Yeah, I love it. Maybe... And there'll be a few more sentences add to set you up. And would you now, if you turn around, if the kid turns around and say, oh yeah, bang, you've got a transgender child, according to the school. And they won't tell you straight away. They'll have a few more grooming conversations with them, what they consider, gender affirming care and part of the process. It's just more. And then you'll get a letter sent home or informed that, your child now wants to identify as non-binary or transgender.
That's how easy it is, Carl. I had somebody say that, well, just in the chat there before, that one of the kids at a school their kid attends wants to be known as a dragonfly with pronouns of Z and Zem. And there is, I think you said it, there is no reason for us to be involved in somebody else's.
And if the other child doesn't, sorry, Carl.
No, I think you're right. There's no reason for us to indulge their illness.
Sorry, Carl, I missed the end of that.
That's all right. You keep going. I've said it twice now. It's obviously not going to get through to you, so just keep going. Oh, we are having a few troubles.
I've got you now.
Yeah, you have? Oh, all good. All right. So aside from what you're doing, what can parents watching this now do to try and aid the better education of their child in the school they're at?
I think I got the gist of it. I think you asked me what can parents do to seek a better education for their child in the school system. Was that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not going to turn around overnight, and it's the old story, what we've been saying for the last 4.5 years. If one or two parents complain, well then not much changes. But what I would suggest that parents start to do is, there's enough of you in the schools, start conversations with other parents. You've got to start having conversations with other parents. You cannot be living in fear of being called a bigot at home first. No, this is what I'm hearing. Okay, I'm just trying to confirm this. If other parents have had their kids come home and tell the same to them. Now, you get enough of this together, you'll all of a sudden go to the next school board meeting and school council meeting and start asking to see the curriculum and start grilling them on this subject. That's a start. Okay, so it's not going to be something that we turn around overnight, Carl. Also, send them off that letter that you don't consent for your child to be taught gender theory. And if they continue to teach it, okay, here's where you kick them the most. Now, how important is protecting your kids? It might be a bit of inconvenience for you. Are you putting a bit of inconvenience over the protection and mental health of your child? Really? I don't know. It's just a question. It's not an accusation. It's just a question. Because as I said last night on a live that I posted, our kids have been through enough. They've just come out of the end of COVID where, at their early formative years, especially, kids in primary school, weren't allowed to play with their friends and and went through all that trauma and disappointment, missing birthdays, all the rest of it. Now, to a kid, that's a big deal. So they've gone through all that and they go back to school and get bombarded with this and further confused. Okay. And they knew they would increase when those kids went back to school after COVID. They knew the kids would be traumatized. Perfect opportunity to stuff at them. Absolute perfect opportunity because they're predators and groomers. And that's what they are. So my suggestion is start galvanizing your support first. Research sites like this, Leave Our Kids Alone. There's another one, Actful Waiting Watching Australia. That's aww.org.au. There's another site you can look up called indefenseofchildren.org. Tess Hackett does a great job there. And also guardiansaustralia.com.au as well too. Educate yourself, so that when you get the replies back from these teachers and these woke principals that you will, then you are fully armed with responses to come back with because you've educated yourself. So that's the first step. Start speaking to other parents. Send off your emails to the school saying you don't consent for your child. And if your child is discriminated against in any way, shape or form, as I spoke about before. That letter I spoke about before, Carl, will be up on the Leave Our Kids Alone site in the next couple of days. I'm just putting a summary sheet to go with it to give parents sort of dot point on how to sort of handle it and why it's there and the ramifications if you don't start using it, because they're hell-bent on indoctrinating your kids. And please hear me on this, please. Like I said, any teachers want to challenge me on this issue, no problem. If you can't come to the presentations that are upcoming, and all those upcoming presentations are on the events section of the Leave Our Kids Alone page, send us an email. Send me an email to info@leaveourkidsalone.org. I'll gladly happy to speak to you about it and give you a greater insight. No problems at all.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing. I want to invite you back when you're on the road in New South Wales in the next couple of weeks. I do have flyers for all of your events, but I'll just go through now. Which one is it? The 14th of October that the venue's been changed that I won't show the date of?
I'll just quickly go through the dates and the so we got Monday the 14th of October at the Croatian Wickham Sports Club in Newcastle. Tuesday the 15th was the change one. It was at Newcastle Sports Club, but they cancelled that. So Croatian Wickham Sports Club. So both nights in Newcastle, the Monday and the Tuesday at the Croatian Wickham Sports Club. At the Central Coast, it's on the Wednesday the 16th of October at the Sunken Monkey in Erina, and Thursday the 17th of October is at the Long Jetty Hotel in Long Jetty. And then on to Sydney on the Friday, the 18th of October at Club Burwood, not Club Burwood RSL. There's a difference. It's at Club Burwood. That's Friday the 18th. They're all evening events. And Saturday the 19th of October is the Time to Rise seminar. So the first one's the Monday the 14th is the Leave Our Kids Alone in Newcastle. Tuesday is the Time to Rise seminar. Wednesday is the Leave Our Kids Alone in the Central Coast, the Sunken Monkey. The Long Jetty is the Time to Rise. Club Burwood, both Leave Our Kids. And on Saturday the 19th before 11 and 1 is the Time to Rise seminars. Both of those event details and addresses are on the relevant websites. For the Time to Rise seminars, it's teamwarriorspirit.com. and on the event section, and for the community information nights on the kids issue, it's at leaveourkidsalone.org. Leaveourkidsalone.org. Yeah, in the event section. There you go.
Beautiful stuff, mate. Congratulations on taking the message further afield out of Victoria. And I know the people of New South Wales, judging by the chat tonight, there's quite a lot of people on the Central Coast will be turning up to your events and making themselves known to you. A lot of kudos to you for the effort and the work that you are putting in on behalf of all our children and grandchildren and those that will come in the future. Because if people like you aren't doing it and people like me aren't helping you promote it, then they're lost to us and they are lost to their own future.
Yeah, Carl, once again, I can't thank you enough for the platform, mate. Much appreciated. God bless. Thank you.
All good. Look forward to seeing you. I'm coming back down to Victoria end of November and into December. So, actually, you and I should talk. There's an event happening in Mount Gambier on the 6th, 7th, and 8th of December. A huge get-together that's being planned around the Blue Lake. They're looking for people to come and have a chat. I know you don't mind standing in front of a microphone, so maybe I can line something up and we can catch up there, mate.
Absolutely. Thanks, Carl.
All right,
thanks everyone for watching, and please share this around. Information is important. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Good luck on the travel. Be safe on the roads, mate. There's a lot of dickheads out there, you know. Cheers, mate. So, Craig Cole on the road heading to New South Wales, October 14 and 15 in Newcastle, the Central Coast, October 16 and 17, and in Sydney on the 18th and 19th. And I'll keep those dates in mind as they come closer. So you can get them, of course, the dates of the October 15 Newcastle event, or the venue at least, has been changed to the Croatian Club at Wickham. So we'll make sure we make those well known. And if you are in any of those areas, please get along, learn. If you've got kids, it may not hurt to take them along. They'll probably confirm everything that Craig's saying and add a few bits to it. So it's a very important message that Craig delivers, and hopefully many of you will receive it, and from it gain the strength to ask the questions required of your principals, of your teachers, of your education departments as we go forward. It's very important that we support Craig in this. So if you have an opportunity to pop along to one of his talks or seminars, then please do. It's a hugely important message. All right, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about tonight very quickly. Daniel Weir had a birthday a couple of days ago, apparently. Hello, Daniel. Happy birthday. Didn't realize. If you said it in the chat, I missed it, so I apologize. I would sing you happy birthday, but, you know, I've done it enough now, and I've had offensive emails saying, please don't sing again. So happy birthday, mate. You had cold chicken. Well, you know, it is Canberra. Everything's cold in Canberra, isn't it? But anyway, happy birthday to you, mate. And many happy ones. I hope it continues on. I did star a few comments down. Oh yeah. Now we were talking about nicotine a little earlier, and how it does have some other benefits. I sort of alluded to. Chris might be onto one of those benefits. It does tend to break down the nanotechnology, or at least it stops it from traveling as freely around the body and clags it up, is my understanding. It doesn't allow it to latch on to anything. So it gets expelled out of the body in the normal way, is how I understand it. Come on. The reason it's a snake is because it's a lunar coin release, and next year is the lunar year of the snake. But thanks for your thing. There are a lot of tasty snakes and animals in the Australian bush. I would agree. Having eaten the odd snake myself at different times. I've had kangaroo. I've had emu. I don't think I've ever eaten crocodile. And I figure that's a pretty fair deal. If I don't eat a crocodile, it doesn't need to eat me. Seems like a fair trade. I think that's all of those. So there's been a bit of commotion, bit of blowback, bit of carry on about the whole rally thing in Sydney the other day, and who said what, where, and why. I was sent, I haven't counted them, but I'd say almost 20 different videos from different angles of particularly the commenting and the shouting and the swearing and the carrying on from various different people. It's sad that some people have to leap out and make accusations about all sorts of just stupid shit when really the issue at stake is being able to come together, not apart. Now, Aussie Cossack was definitely behind the organisation of one of the protests or one of the events there on the weekend. And by his own admission, he's been involved with the biggest protests in Sydney for the last however many years. That necessarily means that he's had some involvement with politicians, and the Liberal Democrats were part of that. The Liberal Democrats and he apparently had a bit of a meeting last week and or a couple of weeks ago, decided they were going to try and push this. And at that meeting, Simeon basically read them the Riot Act when they wanted to try and make sure that there were no Palestinian flags at the event, for instance. So while the Liberal Democrats were all about free speech, they didn't want any Palestinian flags there. And could Cossack make sure that didn't happen? I think Cossack did exactly the opposite, and good on him for it. I think the Liberal Democrats were trying to do a little bit of hijacking themselves, trying to appear and take a lead in the freedom movement. I'm not saying there isn't a void in the leadership of the freedom movement. There is a significant one. And, well, a void always has to be filled. At the moment, we have a lot of strong people pushing everything that comes into that void out of it. And yet none of them are able to hold that void themselves. That is because there aren't enough of them. And that was clearly demonstrated on Saturday. With the amount of promotion that the Aussie Cossack put behind it, that the Liberal Democrats put behind it, and that John and his team put behind it. And I don't want to denigrate in any way, shape or form the effort that John and his team made to go down there. It's a huge effort. But to what benefit? At the most, there were 1,000 people at that rally. And let's be see me or not. I can't see me, so I'm back. All right, now I'll have another go. I don't know what a normal turnout at the Speaker's Corner is, and you're quite right. You can walk up to the Speaker's Corner and speak. That is what it's for. You don't need a permit or anything to do like that. You do much in Sydney. And if you were marching from anywhere, point A to point B, you need a permit for that. But I believe that John and his team maybe did get those permits in place. And if Cossack was part of that organisation, he would have known all that and probably organised them. So Cossack is turning out to be a rather interesting player, considering that he's marooned inside a consulate and can't come out, but is still pulling the things of those people on the outside quite significantly. The reasons for Cossack on the inside are many and varied, but he has been wrongfully, I believe, convicted of an assault crime that, you know, is the absolute proof and antithesis of inversion. Some of you may recall an elderly gentleman tried attacking the Aussie Cossack. He was waving a flag around at the time as he charged at the Aussie Cossack up a couple of stairs. So when you're an older person and you are trying to attack a younger, much larger person who is commanding the high ground, standing 2 or 3 stairs above your position, you're fighting from a position of disadvantage. This gentleman was put off balance by not a, deliberate and vicious shove by Aussie Cossack, but by a blocking technique used to save people when they're being attacked by flag-waving fucktards. who are so emotional and so childish they can't contain themselves, or they feel invincible because the law is going to protect them, which in this case is exactly what happened. The Aussie Cossack was charged with assault of this elderly gentleman who fell backwards after his blow was deflected by Cossack. He slipped and fell backwards down these stairs that he was charging up madly and knocked himself out or hurt himself. Now, he hurt himself, but did he get charged? No. Has Cossack tried to have a go at him civilly? No, I don't think so. Cossack's too busy trying to fight his way out of the consulate. The way he was convicted, though, of that charge is also very interesting. So the Cossack has many great cases to put forward to show that justice has been corrupted in his case, I think is the only word to use. They had to shut him down in some way, shape, or form. And they certainly managed to do that for the most part. But it's still quite clear that he can raise, well, somewhere between 350 and 500 people to turn up at an event in Sydney against the Liberal Democrats, who can only raise a similar number of people. If we're honest, the Liberal Democrats raised anybody to come to that meeting beyond themselves. I think the bulk of the people that were there on the back of the Cossack and John's efforts. And all power to you. All power to you. But at the end of the day, I don't know what was spoken about at that event. I don't know what great words John told the crowd or anybody else who got up to speak, and I believe there were quite a few who did, and that's what Speaker's Corner is all about. It's letting everybody have their say. I heard it described today as organic, the stage presence. It was an organic thing. I will say that when words like organic are used in this sort of context, it usually means it was a bit of a shit fight free-for-all. But if that's what it was, that's what it was. And Speaker's Corners can be like that. In fact, you can have a speaker at every corner of a Speaker's Corner and all speaking at the same time with the crowd in the middle. I've been at one of those events. They can be very interesting if the speakers are conflicting. So, especially if you're standing in the middle of the crowd. So, kudos to those that attended the event. Kudos to those that organised the event. I'm sad that it seemed to be a spectacle of shame for our side of the argument rather than something we can all be proud of. I guess we can be happy that there was such a small group that, you know, the shame is relatively small. I don't know. I don't think so. I think we have to be better. I'm not saying that John or his team did anything particularly wrong. I'm not saying that I would support Craig Kelly and his mob, whoever that mob happens to be this week. It's pretty clear that Craig's looking for a new home again. And will he be able to find it? I don't know. But it was very clear that he was extremely upset that his best laid plans weren't going to come to fruition last Saturday. And it was extremely clear that the Aussie Cossack was in large action responsible for that. And he told them that if they were going to play the no Palestinian card, and why would they play the no Palestinian signs card? Well, they'd only do that because they are looking for the support of the Jewish businessmen of Australia to keep them going forward. They have to keep the Australian Jewish Association on side. Otherwise, they lose all that support. So if they were going to hold a rally and have a whole heap of Palestinians turn up and speak against Israel, then I suspect Craig Kelly Well, I suspect that's the reason Craig Kelly had a conniption more than anything else. And best laid plans, his masters won't be happy that it all fell over and went to shit, but maybe they'll learn from this. They do learn, sadly. Well, hopefully, so will we. Hopefully next time there will be many more. But next time, I think we just got to be careful what we turn up for. I've never been one to go and protest. I see it as begging for my rights. And I don't want to beg for my rights to be returned to me at all. But I will take them back. But I can't do it by myself. I need you and you and you and every other one of you and everybody you know to come with me on that journey. And then we will get our rights back. We will demand and take our rights back. And those that would stand in the way will be put to one side. Because it's clear they cannot be trusted. It's clear they do not work for we the people of Australia. It's abundantly clear they are working for a foreign-controlled corporation. That's why I like to keep pieces of video of the Victorian police or any other Australian police force beating the shit out of the people, because it's their way of applying for a pay rise. Once upon a time, the police swore an oath to the people. We were their paymasters. So when today, if you're hauled before a copper and you decide to say, I pay your wage, you don't. The corporation pays his wage, not the people. So when he drags you through your window and beats the shit out of you on the side of the road, he is in fact demonstrating to his paymasters just how worthy he is of a pay rise. And they would agree and give him one. The police are not on our side. There might be some inside who wish they were or think they are, but they have sworn allegiance to a foreign-owned corporation that has nothing like the best interests for the Australian people on its boardroom tables. I have heard and had so many conversations with people about the solution to all of this. It's clear that we can't motivate enough of you people to stand up and do it politically. Are we meant to now start encouraging you to pick up the pitchfork? Well, based on your ability to pick up the political cudgel, I would say calling for you to pick up the pitchfork would be about just as successful. Because if you're not brave enough to get into fight for your future, the future of your family, your friends, your children, your grandchildren, then you're certainly not going to be brave enough to pick up the pitchfork. I don't know what it is, whether it's weakness or apathy. She'll be right. Somebody else will do it. Just the Australian way of doing things. If that's what it is, it's sad that that's probably one of the greatest things about Australians. And it could be what kills us. Our apathy. Our laziness. She'll be right. Somebody else will do it. I just hope it's not the end. I hope we can find a solution that doesn't involve pitchforks, that brings us all together. It shouldn't be that hard. We all claim to want the same thing. But as far as I can see, the only thing standing in the way of us all coming together are egos. back again, shining through beautifully. Egos. Until those egos can be put to one side, took a bit of a while for the Elon satellite to catch up that time, didn't it? So until such time as we can open up the lines of communication, I believe Ricardo was ordained to come down on high tonight and speak to Australians on his own program. He's cancelled the last few, so odds are he'll cancel this one too. Although I don't think he will. He's got something to come out and crow about with he and John after Saturday. I don't know if Ricardo was there at all. He might have been sitting in a cafe watching it all unfold. He might not have bothered. He might have been too busy talking to his American audience and those people who are now supporting him, because it's quite clear there isn't a great deal of A1 support left in Australia. But that doesn't mean he hasn't got a role to play. But he doesn't play well with others. It's quite clear. He is... no, I'm not going to say that just right now. There are elements of what's happening at the moment that have a lot of fingerprints on them. And the fingerprints are in plain sight. Whether or not the people that are wearing those fingerprints realize they're showing them or not is a completely different matter, but we'll see. We just have to come together. And the only thing that's stopping that is bloody ego. All right? I don't know. It's very easy for me to run around and pop egos. But the result of popping an ego is a lot of angst and anger and bitterness and embarrassment. And I don't want to inflict that on people, particularly publicly. It's not what we're about. You shouldn't have to be embarrassed into a position of civility. You shouldn't have to be embarrassed to put your ego aside for the betterment of us all. And yet, it continues. I don't understand why. But it's interesting, you can now see the herd thinning and you can see the players and you can see the division. And I think if you really look into the background of what happened last Saturday, it will be very clear to you why it happened. And that might be a topic for another night. Maybe the Aussie Cossack would like to come on my show and we can talk about it. The offer is there, mate. You have my number. It hasn't changed. But we shall see. All right, folks. Been a long one again tonight. So I trust life, the universe, and everything goes well in your part of the world. My last few weeks, shit. I'm really glad September has ended and we are into what I hope is October. Keep an eye on the price of silver and gold, folks. Israel has, earlier this afternoon were massing tanks at the border of Lebanon. They have crossed into Lebanon. I also believe that Hezbollah have issued a warning that they are ready for an invasion. Now, I don't know if that means they've dug deeper holes or managed to go out to sea and get away from the aircraft and everything else that the Israelis will be throwing at Lebanon. But it seems now for the 1,200 or so Jews that were lost on October 7 last year, it seems like the Palestinians are going to lose that times 10 in the lead up to October 7 this year. And if you think October 7 will pass quietly without retribution from Israel, Yeah, I think we'll be very wrong in assuming that. From the river to the sea. Let's go plow ourselves a channel, eh? Watch out for the dickheads on the roads, kids. All right.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!